If you're preparing for a superintendent interview, you've probably spent hours thinking about your answers. That's exactly what most candidates do. They ask themselves, is this a good answer? Does this sound strong? Would I hire me? But after analyzing more than 150 superintendent interview questions and candidate responses from real superintendent searches, I discovered something that completely changed how I think about superintendent interviews. School boards aren't listening for the perfect answer. They're trying to understand something much bigger. They're asking themselves, what is this answer telling us about how this person will lead our district? That's a very different evaluation. I'm Jonathan Royce. Through executive interview intelligence, I've been studying the leadership signals, decision making patterns, and executive behaviors that consistently influence superintendent hiring decisions. Every research finding in this series helps answer one question: what is a school board actually seeing when they hear your answers? Today's findings is one of the most important because it changes what candidates should prepare for before they ever walk into the interview. Let's take a closer look.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a really fascinating intellectual mystery. What is actually happening behind closed doors during executive leadership interviews? We're going to unpack some groundbreaking insights into the hidden psychology of the interview room, specifically focusing on the absolute highest level of educational leadership out there, the district superintendent.
So to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to start by asking a pretty fundamental question. What is a school board truly observing when a candidate sits down to speak? I mean, imagine you're in that room, right? The stakes are sky high, and the committee is just staring back at you, maybe not giving away a single emotion, kind of like a row of stone statues. A question is asked, an answer is given. On the surface, it feels like a straightforward transaction of information. But if we peel back the layers just a bit, we start to uncover a much deeper, almost hidden language being spoken.
Section 1. The misunderstanding, the illusion of the perfect answer.
Look, it makes total sense that almost every candidate out there prepares by trying to craft and polish their answers to absolute perfection. We're all taught to anticipate the hard questions, rehearse our talking points, and deliver this flawless, well-structured response. But if candidates are so intensely focused on just giving better-sounding answers, we really have to ask, what crucial element might they be completely overlooking? The flawed assumption here is that we falsely assume boards are sitting there with a red pen and a rubric, just grading the technical grammar and vocabulary of the words coming out of your mouth.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the surprising discovery, uncovering the true metric. This is where Jonathan Royce's research literally blew my mind. He didn't just guess here, he played detective. He meticulously analyzed over 150 real-world superintendent interview questions and the candidate responses to figure out what was really moving the needle for these hiring committees. You know, he was looking for patterns. What actually separated the candidates who got the job from the ones who were sent packing? And wow, here is the massive paradigm shift. Royce found that boards aren't actually scoring the answers themselves. Instead, they are interpreting them as a predictive window into your future behavior. Your words? They're just the vehicle. The committee is using your answers as tangible evidence to visualize how you will actually lead their district when the cameras are off and the real crises hit.
So that naturally brings up a brilliant Socratic question, doesn't it? If the committee isn't just grading the technical quality of what you said, well, what on earth are they actually evaluating as you speak? Which brings us to Section 3, visualizing the unseen, what boards actually see.
You say every single response you give secretly communicates a wealth of executive leadership traits that the board is never going to ask you about directly. As you talk, they are mentally looking right past your face and staring straight at the gears of your decision-making framework. They're constantly looking for evidence of your executive judgment. They're listening for a governance mindset, like do you actually understand the distinct role of the board versus your role as superintendent? They're mapping out your decision-making process and keenly observing your ability to balance competing priorities in real time. Literally none of this is explicitly stated, but it's all being heavily evaluated.
Second, they're totally reading your interpersonal and organizational skills. As you formulate your answers, they're silently gauging your stakeholder awareness. Do you automatically consider the teachers, the parents, the community members, and the students? They want to see organizational thinking. And honestly, perhaps most importantly, they aren't just listening to your policy ideas. They are actively watching your communication under pressure to see how you'd handle, say, a furious crowd at a town hall meeting. Your confidence and adaptability tell them far, far more about your leadership than the actual content of the answer itself.
Let's look at Section 4, a tale of two answers, the practical example. Okay, let's imagine that classic interview question. Why are you interested in becoming superintendent of our district? Let's say we have two fictional candidates. Candidate 1 gives a technically excellent, polished, sincere, and well-organized answer. It's safe, you know? It sounds great on paper. But then we have Candidate 2. Candidate 2 also answers well, but they do something totally revelatory. While Candidate 1 gives a neat little speech, Candidate 2 uses their response to make their internal operating system completely visible to the room. Through their answer, they reveal exactly how they think, how they involve stakeholders, how they prioritize difficult decisions, and how they build trust. Both answers are technically good. But Candidate 2, they make substantially more true leadership visible.
So the absolutely crucial point here, and hey, let's actually pause for a second to let this really sink in, is that success is not about the technical quality of the words. It's just not. The only question that matters isn't what you said, but what your answer caused the board to see. What mental image of leadership did that specific answer plant in the minds of the committee?
All right, Section 5, the cumulative leadership picture. Why this matters. Why does all this matter? Because school boards are fundamentally in the business of making predictions to answer incredibly high-stakes, unspoken questions. They aren't allowed to ask these directly, but trust me, they are screaming in the back of their minds. They are silently asking, can I genuinely trust this person? Can I physically picture this person at the helm of our district? Will this person make sound, rational decisions when a crisis hits and there is literally no perfect answer? How will they represent us to the media, the state, and the community? Your answers are merely the data points they use to resolve these massive anxieties.
And this brilliantly shows how the whole process unfolds over time. It's like building a puzzle. Every single response you give throughout the interview either strengthens or weakens that mental picture, cumulatively building the board's confidence minute by minute. Right around the 10-minute mark, early impressions of your executive judgment are forming. By 30 minutes, distinct patterns of your stakeholder awareness start to emerge. They know if you're a collaborator or a dictator. And by the 60-minute mark, that mental picture of your future leadership has solidified into absolute reality for them. It is a completely cumulative build.
So, to actually pull this off, candidates have got to completely flip their preparation strategy. You have to ditch the old focus of asking, is this a strong answer, and obsessively start asking the new focus, what specific leadership traits is this answer making visible? You have to stop treating the interview like a final exam where you just need to get a passing grade on an essay. You got to start treating it like a live demonstration of your executive brain at work. Ultimately, this completely reframes the way anyone should approach executive placement. I mean, if that is what school boards are actually seeing, if they are looking straight past your polished words and staring directly into your decision-making engine, then candidates desperately need a way to evaluate what their own answers are making visible before they ever step foot in that room. So ask yourself this before your next big opportunity. When you open your mouth to speak, what invisible picture of leadership are you painting in the minds of the people sitting across the table?
Let me leave you with one question. The next time you practice a superintendent interview answer, don't ask yourself, is this a good answer? Ask yourself, what is this answer making visible to the board? Because that's ultimately what this research uncovered. School boards aren't simply listening to your words. They're using your answers to understand how you'll think, how you'll make decisions, and how you'll lead their district. The challenge is that most candidates never get to see what their answers are actually communicating. That's why we created the District Decision Chain Analysis. The introductory version is completely free. You'll submit one of your actual superintendent interview responses and receive immediate feedback showing what executive leadership signals your answer is making visible. You'll discover where you're building confidence, where you're unintentionally creating uncertainty, and what your answer may be missing before you ever walk into the interview. If today's research changed the way you think about superintendent interviews, I encourage you to try the free district decision chain analysis using the link in the description. Then come back and watch the next research finding, because once you're seeing your interview through the eyes of a school board, you'll never prepare the same way again.